Hi guys, and welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. So today I'm going to do my August 2020 wrap-up. So in August I read 7 books. 6 of them were physical books. 1 was an audio book. I had 1 DNF, which I still gave 2 stars, so 1 2-star / DNF at 80%. I had 1 3-star book, 1 4 to 4.5 star book, and then I had 4 freaking 5-star books, which is insane. And y'all may be looking at me like, Alan, you're too liberal with the 5 stars. You're like a 5-star strumpet. I'm not. I promise I'm not. I've just read some really freaking good books this month. I read something like 2,800 pages this month, which is pretty good. I didn't quite reach the 100 pages a day that I'm going for because school started back. And guys, I'm tired when I get home from teaching. I am so tired. Oh, speaking of that, I'm supposed to give you a phase up for my students. I don't know what that is. If that's something bad, please don't get mad at me. I've asked my students and they tell me it's not. They tell me it's just some stupid thing from some like online, I don't know, guild or clan or something for people that play Call of Duty, something like that. I don't know, but my kids walk into the class and they go, phase up, Mr. Walker, and so I do it back. But I told them I would throw one of those in the video, so don't get mad at me. Please, if it is something bad, tell me and I'll never do it again, and then I'll get them in trouble. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start and show you guys the books that I read and hopefully encourage you guys to pick some of these up. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and start with my lowest rated book, and that was the audiobook. Guys, audiobooks, I've decided, aren't really for me, and it's not that there's anything bad with them. Audiobooks are fine, but I personally can't find the desire to listen to them. On my way to work or back home from work in the car, I'd rather be trying to make it through my YouTube watch later queue, or I'd rather listen to music. And when I'm sitting there playing a video game, same thing. I'd rather just run through the watch later queue, which I can't get below 30 videos. You know what I mean? When I'm running around a persona in one of the palaces, I don't need to hear that, so I play this. I just would rather do something else than listen to it. Even when I'm running on the treadmill and exercising, I'd rather watch TV, an episode of One Piece or Law & Order. So I just can't find the desire to listen to it. I guess I just don't like being read to. So I think I'm gonna cut my audiobook experience here short and not read anymore. I am finishing the 1 Audible credit that I had, which is Burnt Sugar, which is on the long list for the Booker Prize. And I know that Kieran at KD Books is waiting for me to finish this so I can give my review, and I'm excited to do it because it's really good. But it's just taking me forever because I can't force myself to actually listen to the audiobook. But I am gonna read it, so don't worry, that's coming. So the book that I DNF'd was my audiobook, and it was The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I gave it 2 stars because I DNF'd it at 80%, which I think is enough for me to make a judgment on the book. I just couldn't make myself finish it. It's too weird, guys. I have Asperger's, so the abstract stuff is confusing to me sometimes. And this book is nothing but abstract. We're supposed to keep a lot of abstract concepts in our mind at one given time. It's about the city of New York being reborn into kind of an avatar, and it's fighting against this the enemy who, like, I'm not going to talk in spoilers, but one of the only reasons I kept reading is because I had the enemy spoiled for me, and I wanted to see if it was cool, but everyone kept telling me that it doesn't end in a bang, it just kind of ends in a whimper, so I'm like, all right, well, if it's not going to be cool, then forget it. And in the prologue, the city of New York kind of enters a stasis, and its 5 boroughs are also given avatars, and it's Staten Island, Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens, and they are trying to stop the enemy and revive the avatar of New York. And the concept sounds awesome. Like, the concept sounds awesome, and people coming along alive and embodying a city is really freaking cool, but in execution, it's very confusing. I like N.K. Jemisin's writing style because it is extremely specific. Like, her metaphors and similes and descriptions are very specific, which I like. She chooses her words very carefully, and it's not just like a weak word when a strong word will do. She's very specific as a writing, and I actually really liked her writing, but the subject matter we're talking about is just too confusing. It's not accessible. It is not accessible at all. There's a huge barrier to entry to kind of understanding what is happening. For the first 100 pages, you're confused, and then the second 100 pages, you're not confused anymore. You kind of get what's going on, but nothing happens. There is a lot of standing around explaining. You're in like the tutorial mode of a video game. And you can't skip it. You can't skip the tutorial. So you just have to keep pressing X, being like, okay, I get it. I understand. Y'all are the cities. I get it. Oh, okay. It's just a lot of that. A whole lot of nothing happening. I do think that it has important things to say about bigotry. I really like how there's a lot of kind of Lovecraftian influences and examples in here, and so I really like the fact that Lovecraft, because he was a horrible, horrible bigot, despite what he did for the horror genre, I like that they use Lovecraft as kind of an allegory for bigotry in general. Like, they use him as, I mean, he just represents all the bigotry in the book, which I thought was really, really cool. And there is a lot, to be said about there's a big conversation about race and bigotry just in general. And I thought that stuff was really, really good. I thought it was too on the nose sometimes. It's not super subtle, it's hammer-fisted, which is fine sometimes, but I mean, it's a little extreme with its messages. And I thought the character work was really good. I think all the characters were really distinct. Some of them were more interesting than others, but they were their own distinct individuals, and I liked most of the characters. As you saw in my thing, I like plots, and I didn't really think there was one here. And just on a side note, I'm listening to it, and man, there's just too many F-bombs. Like, there's more than I'm comfortable with when I read a book or listen to something. Just way too much. Like, way too much. If that doesn't bother you, that's awesome. But just way, way, way too many F-bombs for my own personal comfort. And again, I didn't subtract anything from the book with that, because I realized, that's just how some people talk. It's not particularly how I talk, but that's how some people talk. So I didn't subtract a rating from that. My rating is purely based on the fact that it's confusing as heck and nothing happens. So that's disappointing. I am not giving up on Jemisin, though. I own the 5th season, and I am going to read that at some point, and I think that will be my last trial for N.K. Jemisin. If I don't like that one, I'm probably going to be like, look, you know what? That's not for me, just like I already know. Robert Jordan, it's not for me, though I probably will read Wheel of Time at some point, but I did not like Eye of the World when I read it many, 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 many moons ago. So my second book on this list, and the first physical book, is one that I was actually quite disappointed in. Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. First of all, this cover is gorgeous. I love this cover. And I love Django Wexler. I loved his Shadow Campaign series, which is the Napoleonic War with magic and demons, which is awesome. And so I was really excited to pick up the first book of his new series. I'm going to have a full review of this, but it's not up yet, but it will be uploaded at some point. Brief version is Maya and Jair are siblings. They were separated when they were young, and now one is on the side, wants to bring the empire down, while one is a servant of the Empire. This is inspired by Star Wars, but you kind of get over that very, very early. And really, the thing that is most Star Wars-esque is the fact that there are these things that are similar to lightsabers. They're called Haken, but they're not just lightsabers. They can manifest in like fire or force or wind or kind of like crumbling gravity, so the blades on the swords aren't just light, and I thought that was really awesome. And the magic system in this is really cool. I think it's a good book, I do, and I think someone else could love this book. In fact, Matt over at Books Rebound gave this 5 stars, and if you're considering reading this, you should absolutely go check out his review as well as my review, and you can kind of see what you're in store for and decide if it's going to be something for you. A couple things happened. I had just read Arm of the Sphinx and Foundry Side, and there's some elements in this that are reminiscent of Arm of the Sphinx and Foundry Side, but I liked them better in those other books. Additionally, the heroes in this are young. Maya, I think, is 17, and Jair, the boy, he's 20. And so that's a little on the young side for me. And I think I've just started identifying with older protagonists like Falkio and Senlin. And maybe that's it, or maybe it's not. Maybe it just felt too young for me, but there was a lot in here. Sounds really good. And I did like it enough to where I'm definitely going to read the second one. A lot of this felt like a prologue, like leading up to the real action that's going to take place in book 2. And so I'm definitely going to read the second book, but there's just too much in here. I didn't really like many of the secondary characters. And there's one secondary character in here who I hated. Probably my least favorite character. Why am I still holding this book? Probably my least favorite character in any recent read that I've read. This character was just obnoxious, falling into the danger makes me horny trope, which is my least favorite trope, guaranteed, of all time. Just insufferable. And I am 100% convinced that that character subtracted a lot of enjoyment for me. But like I said, I do think it's a really great book. I think if you've never read Wexler, like his Shadow Campaigns, which I like way better, I think that's part of it too. I think if you've never read Wexler, you can really, really like this book because you don't have any of his other books to compare it to. So I do think it is good. I think it's worth reading, especially if you've never read anything by Wexler. And I think book 2 is going to be even better. A lot of really good ideas in this book, but I didn't love the execution all that much. I was able to kind of predict a lot of it, and even the stuff I wasn't able to predict didn't go in a way that I particularly liked. So more on that in my full review. I'll try not to spoil anything. Just some kind of things that I just didn't love. But 3 stars, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I think it's good. And I encourage you to check it out if you've never read anything by Wexler, and let me know what you think. Moving up to the 4.5 star range, we have Boom, Betrayal in Winter, book 2 of the Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. I loved it. I loved book 2 probably more than book 1, just because of the things that it deals with. There is a female character in this book who is just tragic and horrible, and one of the most just distraught and maligned female character that gets everything she deserves while getting nothing she deserves. And it was just so good. This book dealt so much with grief and what family is, and the price of power, and the price that comes with power, with trying to achieve power at any cost. We again have Mati and Ota reunited once again. We learn even more about the Ondot. The Ondot in this one, Stone Made Soft, is less terrifying than Seedless, but just as calculating. And we learn even more about the Galtians' influence in the politics of the Kayate and where they're headed, and if a war is indeed brewing. And I'm assuming it is, because the third one is called An Autumn War. It was so good. It's unlike, these books are unlike anything I've ever read or anything I've heard people talking about. It is extremely hard to compare these really to anything. They're so unusual. The action is very, very slow, but these character studies and the things that these people are dealing with, because I like plots, and the plot at large is there. I think plot is different than action. There is a great deal of plot. There is not a lot of action. And so some people would say it's slow, and so it's not for everybody. But if you have not read The Long Price Quartet, at least Shadow and Summer, you should give it a try, because it's so, so good. It's so good, and the themes it explores and the characters, I love it, and I cannot wait to read An Autumn War. And so guys, I've got nothing left but 5-star reads. Nothing left but 5-star reads. And so I'm going to start with Boosh, Arm of the Sphinx by Josiah Bancroft, book 2 of the Books of Babel. So good. I'm not going to talk about second books of the series very much, just because I don't want to spoil anything. But in this one, the characters are at their peak. If you haven't seen my review, go check it out. It is very different than the first one. The first one was Senlin's story. Here, it's not just Senlin, but the story of his friends and the people around him as they fight against just the utter oppression of the tower. This is multi-POV. We get into the heads of the other characters, and like I said in my review, guys, this is some of the best ragtag found family group that I've read. They are so realistic, despite being in this very whimsical, kind of like bizarre setting. They are so grounded in just their real personalities. They love each other, they get mad at each other, they fight, they make up. There is no misunderstandings. The conflict and the tension comes from real human conflict and not manufactured conflict. Bancroft's prose is amazing. The Sphinx is such an awesome character. All of the characters are so good in this one. I like this one. Initially, I couldn't decide if I liked Senlin or Arm of the Sphinx better. I think I like Arm of the Sphinx even better, just because it not only highlights Senlin, but the other characters as well. It's so good. We get so many revelations, while at the same time asking so many questions. I'm so excited to read The Hod King this month, book 3, of which every single person I have talked to who's read this series says Hod King is the best book by far. It's incredible, it's amazing, and I cannot wait to get back with a Hod King review. So, Arm of the Sphinx, 5 stars easily. My next 5-star review is Boosh, Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. Gorgeous cover. I don't know what to say by Foundry Side. This is at least not underrated. So many people have read Foundry Side. Y'all know it's so good. It's just so good. It's an adventure tale. There's heists, and it's just awesome. It feels like an Indiana Jones or a National Treasure movie, but dark and I picture everything happening at night. We have Sanchia, who is this thief who's really, really good at her job because she can place her bare skin on objects and know their history, and the magic system is kind of like computer coding, where everyday items are scribed, words are etched on them that kind of changes their reality. So you can tell something, you could tell like a boulder, you could scribe it to make it think it's light, and so you can just easily you push it. Sisyphus needs that crap so he can stop having to deal with his punishment. And it's just so good. It is action. Like, there's a lot of plot, but compare this to Long Price Quartet, which has a lot of plot but very little action. This has so much action from start to finish. It is just, and the last 150 pages are just a whirlwind, a whirling dervish, a tempest, a maelstrom, if you will, of things happening. Oh my gosh, it asks so many awesome questions. Who are the Occidentalists, the Roman wizards that I think they are? I'm getting too excited. Sorry, gotta calm down. The characters are fantastic. I love Sanchia. I love Gregor. Justice! I love Orso and his insane Doc Brownness, played by John Malkovich, where he's gonna yell at everybody. I made this into a movie. Check that out. And then Berenice. I'll get us in. And so good. The villains are incredible. The heroes are incredible. I cannot wait to see where Shorefall goes. Frickin' Jesse and Abby and V keep talking about Shorefall and how great it is, and I don't have any stinking room for it on the September TBR because I got too many buddy reads and I had too many series I had already started before Foundry Side. Such is life. So I'm going to get to Shorefall as soon as I am able, but it may not be until October. But Foundry Side, 5 stars, so good. And finally, I'm just going to group these together because they're the same series. Boosh. 2 5-star reads right here. Trader's Blade and Night Shadow. Book 1 and 2. Look at how much bigger Night Shadow is. Of the Greatcoat series by Sebastian de Castell. Guys, I don't know what to tell you if you haven't read Greatcoats. You need to read it. It is action-packed. The dialogue is some of the best I have ever read. The interaction between Brasti, Kest, and Falkio, the 3 friends, the Greatcoats. The Greatcoats they were traveling magistrates, and then the king was killed because they were operating under the king, trying to bring some fairness and some justice to the world, where there are 9 duchies, and they're all the dukes are douchebags, or duke bags, which is what I've coined now, and they're horrible to the populace, they overtax, they're just cruel, and the Greatcoats were that barrier between the duke's cruelty and unfairness and the common man. And the king's dead, and The Greatcoats were considered traitors because they didn't do anything about it, and also the Dukes hate them. And so that's where they are. But these three characters are so amazing. They're so funny. And the best friendships that I've read, the best friendships bromance between three guys, like, it's so good. The minor characters are incredible, especially in the second book as well. He introduces much more nuanced characters in there. The first one is really about justice, and the second one they talk about valor a lot, or valour if you're English. And they're so good. His writing is easy to read. It flies. So good. Now, if you nitpick them to death, yes, there are plenty of things you could nitpick at this if you're out searching for flaws. And I understand, part of our job as book reviewers is to critique things, even things that we love. However, I can acknowledge that I love something and that for me it was a 5-star read while still acknowledging that it was a flawed book. There are flaws in the Greatcoats, and if you're looking for them, you're gonna find them. You can unravel it till you die. There's, you know, some things that rely on convenience and some other things that we don't know what it is yet, and you can pick it apart if you want. I don't care. I don't care. They're so good, just amazing. Right now, I'm just reading so many amazing series right now between Long Price Quartet, Greatcoats, Senlin, and frickin' Foundry Side. Like, what is happening to my life right now? And then I've got to read all this other stuff. It's madness. This is madness. They're so good. If you haven't read them, please just go read them. Just go read Traitor's Blade. You'll be done in 2 days. Read it, come back to me and be like, Alan, you know what, you're right. Falkio is the man. Like, Alan, when are you forming our own Greatcoats? Where do I acquire a Greatcoat? What part of the king can I be? When are we going to go from town to town bringing justice? Because there ain't no justice here now either, guys. It's insane. I hate corruption. The Greatcoats, I love them and everything they stand for. This just may be the series that was created just for me. The fight scenes are amazing. If you don't like fight scenes, if you don't like fighting in your books, don't read it. Don't read it. It's all fighting. Anyway, I'm going to have a review of Night Shadow out pretty soon because I loved it just as much, if not more, than Traitor's Blade. We'll see where I actually land on that, because initially I think with Senlin, I liked Senlin better than Arm of the Sphinx, but I think that's changed now with Sitting. So I'll see which one after a while I end up landing on, which one I liked better. So guys, that is my August wrap up. I did not get to 3 books on my TBR. One, Night's Blade was not supposed to be on there. Sorry, Night Shadow was not supposed to be on there, but I put it on there anyway because I love Traitor's Blade so much. So I cheated and broke my TBR for that one, but I did not read the D&D Minis pick from last month, which is His Majesty's Dragon. I also did not read Hyperion, which was supposed to be my sci-fi pick. I didn't get to it. And I also was not able to read White Rose, which is the 3rd Black Company book that I meant to read as well. I just didn't have time. I have not forgotten about them. They will roll over to my TBR every month until I am able to find a hole to plug them with. They're all 300 something, well, Hyperion's like 5, but the other 2 are 300 pages, so if I can just find some time, I should be able to plug one of those in there. But don't worry, I have not forgotten. I definitely, if you watch my TBR videos, no way I'm getting all those either. But it'll just keep rolling over. I'm gonna get to them, guys, as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.